Salute the Froster. Hi loves, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be shooting the second episode to the Rosero as a Model series, and in today's video we're just going to be getting into three main topics. And the topics that I'm going to be getting into today are: number one, how you can get yourself into the modeling industry; number two, the difference between a freelance and a signed model; and the third thing is the pros and cons of either or. So I've made myself some notes, and I hope I covered everything in my notes, that way I do not forget to mention anything like I did in my previous video. And if you haven't watched that, I'll put it in the cards somewhere. Please do go watch it. That way, if I do reference anything in this particular video or any other episodes to come, you are not lost. You get exactly what I'm talking about. So do go watch it. But before we begin, a quick disclaimer.
Any information that I'll be giving in this video or in the entire series of videos that I'm shooting modeling related are solely from what I've noticed over my past few months of modeling. I didn't go to school to study what modeling really entails, so this is just my observations, the trends I've noticed over the last few months, with a few personal encounters and just personal reasoning for why what happened.
So yeah, without any further ado, let's get right into the video. Okay, so the first point we're going to be getting into is, well, how to get into modeling. The first way in which you can do that is by getting scouted. So that's exactly what happened with me, for me to have been now signed to Boss Models. But that's basically when someone approaches you and says, hey, I like how you look, I would like to have you be a part of this, either an agency, a campaign, a fashion show, whatever. This particular person could be an agent from a modeling agency, could be a designer, could be a scout. We do call them scouts, but it is basically them approaching you, wanting to use you for something modeling related. One thing that I'd recommend that you look out for with being scouted is not everyone are who they say they are. So someone will approach you and say, I come from this company and that company. Just be on the lookout, because not everyone is who they say they are, and not everyone comes to you with pure intentions, and some of them might be approaching you and all they want to do is cause any form of harm to you. So have three eyes open when it comes to being scouted. Do your background checks. So if someone approaches you and say they're from this particular brand or this particular company, email or call that company and just double check if indeed so and so was sent by you or works for you, and if them scouting you is something that the company or the brand does. And then the second, and I feel the most, okay, maybe second most, but the second most safe way to do it is by submitting an online application form. So this you can do on an agency's website. So it's very easy. You just go on Google, find the agency you would like to work with, go into their website, and somewhere they'll have an apply, but it'll probably be somewhere there in their website saying to become a model, and then you'll just read through whatever they have for you to read there. And that obviously comes with a few requirements. Since you'll be the one approaching the agency and not the other way around, you have to sell yourself to them. So you have to just give them a few of your details, so your personal information, name, contact details, email address, the works, your physical address where you stay. I feel like the reason why agencies ask that is to make sure you're in close proximity to the actual agency. I think the recommended distance or time of drive is like 1 hour. I don't know how many kilometers that is, but they recommend that you just stay 1 hour drive for them in case you are needed urgently for something. So in case a work pops up last minute or a placement for you pops up last minute, now you don't have to fly all the way from Cape Town and miss the shooting times or the casting times or anything of that sort. So you have to fill in that. And then the second thing that they will require from you are your measurements. So your height, your waist, your hips, your bust and chest area, your shoe size, your eye color and hair color sometimes. And I don't know for sure, but with that, I think the reason why they ask for specifics like that, so your eye and hair color, is because, okay, with me, what had happened was I once applied to a particular agency, and after a week or something, they sent me an email back acknowledging my application and telling me that unfortunately we cannot sign you because we have someone who looks exactly like you signed under us at the moment. That didn't mean I have a twin, but it basically meant that they had under them at that moment someone who probably had, you know, similar height, similar measures in terms of the body, so waist and hips and all of that, similar hair type, length, probably texture, I do not know, and similar eyes. I feel agencies avoid having a lot of similar faces under them, so that should there be a casting for something and the brief for the casting asks for the specifics you have, they do not send 8 people under them to go cast for that one job, because that now would be, you know, inter-agency competition. I don't know if that's a thing, but that's the logic I got from this whole thing. So other agencies will ask that, others will not. And then obviously images, so that they see that the measurements and the height and everything that you put up there actually correlates with what you look like at the moment. And I think they recommend that you do not have images that are older than 6 months, so that they get a rough look at what you might be looking like at the moment of your application. So that will be a few of your portraits, one smiling so that they do not say stilo magolide and one with a serious face, and then your side profile so they see the shape and the contour of your face, and your full length images. Yeah, I'll put the images somewhere on the sides. I don't know who this lady is, I just stumbled upon them on my Instagram, but they're a clear representation of, you know, the type of images they'd like you to upload when you're uploading on their website. So they'll be here somewhere. With these photos, I think agencies look for certain things like piercings and tattoos, because others are very strict and, you know, do not allow for the models to have piercings or tattoos, especially if the piercings are anywhere on the body other than on your ears, which I feel like these are the most accepted by society. I don't know, but others do not allow that for their models and others do. So I think that's where they kind of look at your body and see if you have any body art like that. And also with the height, most agencies I've checked, and most of them with females require a minimum height of 1.74 meters, and with males, okay, that's one part I forgot to check actually, but since males are generally taller than females, I'm guessing with males it would be more than that, probably 1.78 or 1.8 meters. I'm more than 1.8 meters, so that's never been a problem for me, but it's a problem because I'm too tall for girls. So but that's a story for another day. I hope that covers everything where this is related. And then the third and final way that I have for you today is going to an agency open day. So these they usually post about on their Instagram stories. I've seen a lot of agencies do that, so I do recommend that if maybe you have your eye on a particular agency, that you go and follow them on their Instagram, because they'll most probably post about a lot of opportunities on their stories or on their posts that could benefit you probably in your path. So do follow them so that you have 3 eyes open for these types of opportunities. But that's basically, so an open day is basically when an agency will say, hi, from this time to this time tomorrow we are allowing walk-ins, so a model to just come in and they have a physical look at you and see if they want to sign you or not. If I forgot to mention anything in here, I'll definitely put it in the coming episode. Point number 2 for today, the difference between a freelance model and a signed model. I didn't write much on this because I wanted to be as organic as possible, but here goes nothing. A freelance model is a model that is not signed to any form of management, no agency, nothing, and they are independent. And a signed model is one who's signed to a form of management, and they have all their administration and all their bookings done by their management. Well, I've been both in my life. I was signed first to an agency, and then I went freelance, and then I signed again. Both of them have their own pros and both of them have their own cons. I'll get into that in a minute. And honestly, if you have a question asking which one is best, I don't really think anyone has an answer for that, seeing as both of them has their own pros and cons. You know, maybe alternate and do both of them throughout your career, or maybe just pick one and stick with it, or try one, and if it's not working for you, try the other one. But to help you decide that, let me get into the pros and cons of freelance. So number one pro of freelance, and I think is the best one in this list, is that you get all your money. So because you're not signed to anyone, you do not have to pay anyone anything for your administration, for your booking. So all the money you make from a job or a gig goes to you. Apart from paying tax, everything else goes to your bank account. And that's sweet freelance money. The second pro to being freelance is that you have no bad contract, and the reason why I say that is because you have no contract to begin with. So as a freelance, you can never find yourself being tied to people who are working against you and not for you, because you are your own person, you are your own boss. You'll decide if you want to go to a casting or not. Same with signed, but somehow you have more freedom as a freelance model than a signed model. And the third pro that I have on this list is there's no compromise when it comes to who you work with. I put this point here because I don't know what the probability of this happening is, but say a certain client or a certain company does not at all associate with a certain agency, and you are in that case unfortunately signed to the agency. If the company isn't associating with your agency for whatever reason, you will obviously not get the chance to go casting and auditioning for that company's campaigns. So their adverts or whatever work they have, you will unfortunately not have the opportunity to do that for them. I don't know how often something like this happens or could happen, but as a freelance model, you're not at all affiliated. You're not at all associated. Is affiliated even? You know what? Forget it. You're not at all associated with that. So that puts you at an eligible position to cast for whatever campaign that brand has. Okay, so the first condition is you have no representation / legal representation. Since you're independent, should you have any form of disagreement with your employer / client, you'll have to either represent yourself in any legal battle should it get to that, or provide your own self with a lawyer or any other person who will be representing you. The second condition is you can get into a bad client and model relationship. Since you'll be representing yourself, it means you are your own spokesperson. So whereas a person who's signed has their agency deal with any issue for them, you yourself will be that person dealing with that issue, and that could form a bad client model relationship and affect any job you could have possibly gotten in the future with that particular client. I wrote here you're exposed to chance takers, and what I mean by that, like I've mentioned with scouting, with the people who claim to be scouts, not everyone who comes to you saying they are representing an agency or a brand are who they are. While I was freelancing, sometimes I'd go on the internet, don't do it, and search for modeling jobs available in Johannesburg or whatever, and you get a list of all these men who first of all don't even have an email address. So all forms of communication were done through WhatsApp, and that for me raised a flag. And I don't even speak to your assistant or whatever, I speak to you, the creator of the fashion show. Something's off. So people like them, or that person that I spoke to that day, who turned out to not be who they are, I never even pursued that job further. Once I saw that, I just deleted their numbers and blocked them from my phone. But a lot of people will go on the internet like that and use this way as a way to get girls for whatever it is that people, like that crazy people do these days, human trafficking, you name it. That's a very important con. That's where a lot of freelance model get harmed. The fourth point is you could sign a contract. Is it this thing of my dizzy handwriting? No, I can't. Oh, a work contract that is against you. And what I mean by this is you could find yourself having signed a contract that maybe had underlying statements or clause you might have not been aware of. You didn't realize that it stated that for as long as you do this campaign, or for the next 4 years, you can only be the face of this campaign. You cannot do any other fashion show or any other ad or any other thing. Now you're tied to this particular work for a very long time. So having an agent will obviously prevent that from happening, because they'll, read the contract and conditions that the client has given and check with you if you are fine with that. If you're fine with that, cool. But sometimes it is self-sabotage to your modeling career, because now you're going to be stagnant for a period of 5 years, sometimes 10 years. I've heard of it happen. So that's also where it gets tricky. Point number 5 is you look for jobs yourself. So obviously with me, I was very lucky and fortunate that I had, this lawyer who would send me jobs and stuff, but not a lot of people have that. Just like that one mistake that I did that time of going to the internet to try and find a job. Don't go to the internet, but you'll have to have 3 ears open for any casting information coming up, basically. Jobs are so scarce for freelance models. You could do anything between 1 and only 3 castings for a whole year, and the amount of money you make from all those castings doesn't even exceed 5,000 rand. That's the downside of freelance modeling. It could get really, really dry. And why I say that, which is now point number 6, is you cannot cast for some jobs. So a lot of big brands or high profile brands and campaigns are not told to the public until the final product is out. So let me say Coca-Cola is shooting an ad, you'll never see Coca-Cola post that they're looking for models. And the reason why that is because the whole process is very confidential. They'll send a brief to agencies, the agencies will send the briefs to models, the models will cast, and before the final product comes out, the only people who are aware of that is Coca-Cola, is the agency, and the model. So a lot of high profile jobs are strictly for signed models. Well, now let's get into the pros and cons of being a signed model. So the first pro that I have here is you have representation. So you have someone finding jobs for you, booking you for jobs, doing all form of administration, modeling related, and you do not have to deal with anything legal yourself. That's, I think, big facts. Point number 1, you don't deal with a lot of things on your own. You have a team with you. Number 2 is you have a vast array of jobs. Okay, I wrote here, you have a vast array of jobs, but what I mean by that is what I was talking about on con number 6 with being freelance. As a signed model, you can basically cast for any job. So from your small scale jobs to your very high profile jobs, you have all of that available for you to try your luck. I not get all the jobs. It doesn't guarantee that you're gonna get the jobs. But since you have a lot of things to cast for, that increases your chances of, employment in a period of time. Number 3 is you have safety and security when it comes to the jobs you get. And on this, I think I spoke about it somewhere, your agency will literally go through all your contracts, you will do background checks for you. That way, you know for a fact that if they send you a casting, they've done their background checks. The place that they're sending you to exists, those people exist, and it is indeed a real job. Number 4 is a contract is a form of security. And by that, I mean, okay, first of all, at the back of your mind the whole time that I have a contract with these people for a year. That means I know I am under someone's security for a year. Also, what I mean by that is, should you go into any bad terms with your agency and maybe they want to let you go before time, so if your contract is meant to last for a year and they want to let you go within the first 3 months for whatever reason, your contract will protect you against that. Now for the cons of being signed. Number 1, the one we hate the most. You have to pay commission to your agency. So whereas with freelance models, the most they pay is taxes, you will pay taxes as well as commission to your agency, as well as administration fee to your agency. So Zotoluguti, after all these deductions, your net is half your gross. And that's sad when you look at how much you could have been paid for a certain job, but because that someone had to work for you to even get that job to begin with, it's a fair price to pay. I only have 3 cons to this. So the second one is your money gets delayed. So just like how I just mentioned, you have to pay a lot of people, whereas with freelance models, all they pay is taxes, and most of the time the taxes are already deducted before any form of invoicing and payment processing is done. with them, they get their money, you know, within days, a week, just a short space of time. But because yours has to go through everything, you can get your money anywhere between a week of having completed your job and a month, or even more sometimes. If you're doing it for the love of it, you honestly don't mind any payment delay. And the third and final one is you are bound to work for the agency for however long the contract lasts for. So just like the reverse of it, how I mentioned in the pros that should they at any reason want to unfairly dismiss you, should you for whatever reason want to leave and your contract says you have to be with them for a year, for whatever reason, doesn't matter how unhappy you are, if their contract is strict, you are not going anywhere. So you're going to be signed with that group of people for however long it's stated. So yeah, that's it. We finished this paper. I'm proud of myself. Yeah, I really hope that this video did come in handy to someone out there, even if it's one person really. If at any point of the video I gave you anything that you found useful, please do like the video, share it with whoever else could find it helpful in their own career path or whatever. I don't know, have them share it to their dog, their parents, their neighbors, the works. Just subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, that way you'll get notified when I post the third episode to the series. Leave a comment down below so I know I'm on the right track, and if you feel there's anything I should have mentioned today specifically on these topics, do state it in the comments and I'll get into it the first thing in the next video. And I hope to see you guys on my next one. Keep safe, sanitize, I love you guys, and I'll see you soon.